I want to ask you something right here at the start. How many of you woke up this morning with a swirl of doubts nipping at your heels, wondering if you're strong enough, brave enough, or even worthy enough to step boldly into the day? I'm not talking about a little whisper of self-consciousness. We all get that from time to time. I'm talking about the kind of deep uncertainty that can freeze us in our tracks, that can make us feel small even when God's promise over our lives is big. Now, maybe you're a student who's not sure you'll make it through that next exam, a parent who feels overwhelmed by the day-to-day chaos, or a professional who worries that you're an imposter in your own field. Wherever you come from, I want you to hear me today. There is a purpose for you, a higher purpose, and it comes from a place far beyond the limitations of our fear. I learned that truth from my own life experiences, and I'm standing before you as living proof that God's plan can carry you through every storm and every struggle if you will lean in and trust. When I was growing up, my father was a Pentecostal minister who planted in me the seed of faith. I remember being just a little kid, eyes barely able to peek over the pew, listening to the powerful voices that filled the church. They sang of hope and deliverance. They prayed with conviction, and they carried a quiet, steady confidence about them, something that just glowed in their eyes. Back then, I couldn't fully understand it. I only knew that I wanted to feel that same warmth in my own heart, especially on those days when I felt left behind or lost. Later, when I was trying to figure out who I was, when I was navigating the wild terrain of Hollywood, I recalled those folks in my father's church. I saw how they never wavered, how they spoke of peace, how they walked forward even when life threw one punch after another. And I realized their confidence wasn't mere swagger. It wasn't the loud, flashy brand of confidence you see on billboards or magazine covers. It was anchored in their unwavering belief that God was always in control. That belief shaped my journey, reminding me over and over that even if I stumbled, I wouldn't ultimately fall, because my faith would cushion the landing. Let me tell you, I have stumbled many times, more than I care to admit, but through it all, I clung to that seed of faith, trusting that God's higher purpose for me remained. It's so easy in this hustle and bustle world to lose sight of that anchor. Our culture likes to tell us that confidence looks like having the biggest bank account, the flashiest resume, or the most followers on social media. We've grown accustomed to equating material success or public recognition with strength, and so we strive for more, bigger, better, often at the expense of our peace. But if you look carefully at people who chase after these things without a deeper grounding, you'll find they might be loud in their self-promotion yet quiet in their lonely moment. Their minds race at night because they're not resting in something greater. I'm here to remind you that there is an alternative. There's another way of navigating your day-to-day existence that can fill your spirit with genuine, unshakable peace. And it begins with continually reassuring yourself of God's higher purpose. It starts when you take your eyes off the daily scoreboard, how many likes you got, whether you got that promotion, who you beat in some competition, and fix them on the grander horizon that only God can paint for you. I want to talk to you tonight about nurturing what I call peaceful confidence. It's a kind of confidence that is not rooted in arrogance, but in assurance. Assurance that you're exactly where you need to be, even if you can't see the full picture. Assurance that the trials you face today are stepping stones, not stumbling blocks, for the purpose you will fulfill tomorrow. Now, don't mistake me here. I'm not advocating a passive acceptance of life's circumstances. I'm talking about an active stance, fueled by faith, where we keep walking even if we can't see the entire path in front of us. We keep believing that our successes, our failures, our biggest heartbreaks, and our sweetest joys are all threads in the tapestry of a life that God is weaving uniquely for us. My question for you, as I extend this conversation, is this. Are you ready to step forward in a way that doesn't just boost your ego for a moment, but truly uplifts your soul for a lifetime? Because the kind of confidence we are seeking transcends any fleeting applause this world can offer. It is eternal, it is sacred, and it can be yours if you choose to plant yourself in God's promise and nurture it every day. Now, I learned some of these lessons the hard way. In my early career, I was thrilled just to land an audition or get a role. But the real challenge came when the camera stopped rolling and I had to go home to myself. The applause fades, and the question remains, who are you when nobody's watching? That's the question that forced me to dig deeper and cling to what my father and mother had taught me about faith. There were times I felt like I wasn't good enough. There were moments I wondered if I was making the right choices. I had to ask God, is this truly where you want me to be? And in those moments I found comfort, not in some booming voice from the heavens, but in the gentle reassurance of my heart that said, keep going, I'm with you. Let me pause here to ask you, where do you need that gentle reassurance right now? Is it in your college journey as you stand on the brink of a major decision, feeling like your dreams might be slipping through your fingers? Is it in your family life, where the friction between siblings or the weight of financial stress is wearing you down? Is it in your community? Maybe you're part of an organization that's struggling to find unity and direction? Or is it in the quiet corners of your mind, where insecurity whispers that you're not enough? Whatever your story, I want to invite you to reflect on how you can ground yourself in the reality of God's love so that you can walk forward in peaceful confidence. Many young people today face an onslaught of messages telling them that their worth is based purely on performance. If you don't score the highest, get accepted to the best school, land a perfect job, or stand out in a crowd, somehow you're less than. That message is repeated over and over, crowding our social media feeds and conversations, shaping how we value ourselves and each other. Listen, I've been there. I've felt that pressure. But I've also learned that the truest measure of your worth isn't in your trophies, metaphorical or literal. It's in the authenticity and consistency of your relationship with God, your commitment to grow, and the love you show to others. A trophy can gather dust in a cabinet somewhere, but love, compassion, faith, and humility can shift the atmosphere around you. They become part of your character, the invisible currency that opens doors that no degree or bank statement can ever touch. So, if you're a young person listening right now, let me tell you, aim high, study hard, do your best in everything you do. But remember that your identity is not wrapped up in a single achievement. Your identity is a flame that God Himself ignites within you. Even if you stumble along the way, that flame doesn't go out. Feed it with prayer, with service, and with gratitude, and watch how it lights your path step by step. For parents, the journey can be equally daunting. You're not just responsible for yourself, you're carrying the hopes, dreams, and burdens of your children. I've seen my mother take on multiple roles in the household. I've witnessed friends who had to hold down 2 or 3 jobs just to keep the lights on and the fridge stocked. It's exhausting. Sometimes you look at your kids and wonder if you're doing right by them, whether you're giving them every opportunity they deserve, whether they see you as strong, or if they sense your fears. Hear me, your dedication is not in vain. Every sacrifice you make out of love resonates in the spiritual realm. When you parent with faith, you're laying a foundation for your children that is far sturdier than any trust fund. You're showing them what it means to lean on God's promise, to find peace in the middle of chaos. And that example, even if it feels small or unnoticed in the moment, can blossom into a legacy that shapes generations to come. Let that be your confidence on those sleepless nights when anxiety wants to take over. Let it be the voice telling you that your love, fortified by God's guidance, will make an impact that no worldly measure can diminish. Now, when it comes to business or community leadership, there's a similar kind of pressure. You might have investors to answer to, employees looking to you for guidance, or neighbors who rely on you to keep the community safe and thriving. Leadership is not for the faint of heart. It can feel like you're standing on a stage every day, with bright spotlights shining on every decision you make, every word you say or don't say. And here's the thing, it's easy to resort to ego to mask insecurity. It's easy to puff up your chest and pretend you've got all the answers, when in reality, you're just as human and fallible as everyone else. But what if your confidence as a leader didn't come from projecting a false image of perfection? What if it came from your unshakable trust that God has placed you in that position for a reason, and that He will guide you if you remain humble and open to His leading? When I've been on various film sets, I've seen directors who lead with arrogance, and I've seen directors who lead with respect and a recognition of something bigger than themselves. The difference in the atmosphere on those sets is tangible. Where arrogance reigns, everyone is on edge, waiting for the next blow-up. Where humility and faith reign, people come alive. They feel safe to share ideas, safe to grow. So if you're leading a team, running a business, or shepherding a community, remember this: your peaceful confidence can become a beacon of calm for those who look up to you. It's not about how loud you are or how imposing you seem. It's about how rooted you are in God's purpose. That's where your true strength lies. And that kind of leadership can transform an entire environment. Of course, there are struggles we all face: stress, disappointment, betrayal, heartbreak. Sometimes you plan everything out perfectly, and still the outcome is not what you hoped for. It can be heartbreaking. You might feel blindsided, disillusioned, or discouraged. In those moments, you might be tempted to give up on your dreams or question whether God even cares. I've been there. I've sat in that darkness, wondering if my prayers were bouncing off the ceiling. But let me tell you what I discovered. Even in the valley of despair, God's presence can be found. Sometimes the biggest growth spurts of our faith come from the seasons of drought and challenge. It's when we have to dig our roots deep, looking for that living water that only God can provide. And yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's painful. But it's in that difficulty that God shapes us into people who can withstand the storms yet to come. So, if you're at your wit's end tonight, thinking about walking away from your calling or burying your hope, pause and consider this. Your struggle might be part of a bigger setup, a grander design where you emerge stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than you ever thought possible. To nurture that sense of peaceful confidence, I urge you to embrace several practical habits. First, make time for intentional stillness. We live in a world that bombards us with noise. Our phones ring constantly, notifications pop up, and people demand our attention in 100 different ways. You need to carve out space each day to breathe, to pray, to listen. Go into your closet, close the door, and simply be. Let your heart tune in to that quiet whisper of God's reassurance. It may be 5 minutes, it may be 15, it may be an hour. Whatever it is, guard it as a sacred appointment, because it will ground you like nothing else can. Even Jesus, in the midst of all his ministry, withdrew to quiet places to pray. If the Son of God needed that time, how much more do we? Second, align your daily routines with spiritual grounding. Sometimes we separate sacred and secular too much, as if God only cares about the 10 minutes we spend in morning devotion. But God is interested in every aspect of your life: your health, your work, your relationships, your leisure. Try to bring Him into every moment. Start your morning with a prayer of gratitude. Invite Him into your decision-making throughout the day, and close your evening by reviewing your blessings and seeking guidance for tomorrow. This rhythm reminds you continuously that you are never walking alone. When challenges arise, and they will, you've already fostered an awareness of God's presence, and that awareness brings peace. Third, immerse yourself in a community of believers, or at least surround yourself with people who share a similar drive for purpose and positivity. We humans are social creatures, and our mindset is heavily influenced by the people around us. If you want to cultivate a steadfast faith, find others who are also committed to that path. Share testimonies, pray for each other, laugh together, cry together. You need people who will lift you up when you're weak and allow you to do the same for them. In a world so quick to judge and isolate, genuine fellowship is precious. Don't neglect it, because these connections not only sharpen your faith, but also make life's trials more bearable. Fourth, remember that small acts of service can trigger large ripples of transformation. One of the best ways to root yourself in God's purpose is to serve others. When you pour out kindness on another person, whether by volunteering in a soup kitchen, mentoring a younger colleague, or simply lending a listening ear, you are actively participating in God's work here on earth. You're letting His love flow through you to someone else, and in that flow, there's a powerful sense of fulfillment. Service not only blesses others, but also breaks the chains of self-centeredness that can rob us of peace. The more we look outward and seek to bless others, the more we realize that our problems, while valid, are not insurmountable. We gain perspective, humility, and a deeper sense of gratitude. Let's talk about gratitude for a moment. Gratitude is a muscle that needs daily exercise. If you only rely on the big, flashy miracles or major wins to express your thanks, you'll miss countless smaller blessings that sustain you day by day. The roof over your head, the health that keeps you moving, the friends who check in on you, the unexpected laugh you share with a coworker, these are gifts. If you approach each day with the question, Lord, what can I be grateful for today? You start to see life differently. Gratitude shifts your perspective from scarcity to abundance, and that is a powerful step toward sustaining peaceful confidence. When your heart is full of thankfulness, there's less room for fear. Fear thrives in a mind that believes it lacks something essential. Gratitude pushes back against that lie, reminding you that you have more than enough because God is your provider. Still, I know there will be days when doubt crashes in like a tidal wave. Maybe a relationship falls apart. Maybe you lose someone dear. Maybe the business venture you poured your soul into collapses. In those moments, peaceful confidence doesn't mean wearing a fake smile or pretending everything's fine. It's about acknowledging the pain, grieving if you must, but refusing to conclude that your story ends there. I've walked through valleys of loss and heartbreak too. In those moments, yes, I cried. Yes, I felt confused. But I also felt a little hand of hope tugging at me, whispering that this was not the end. I held on to that hope, and step by step, with God's grace, I climbed out of that darkness. Let me assure you, the valley might be deep, but it has a floor. It doesn't go on forever. And on the other side, there's a mountaintop you can't even imagine yet. Peaceful confidence is knowing that even in the valley, you're not forsaken, and there's a better horizon ahead. Sometimes we get stuck because we're waiting for perfect clarity before taking the next step. We tell ourselves, I'll move forward when I have a solid plan, when I have enough support, when every door is open wide. But life rarely works that way. Often, God invites us to move first, and then clarity follows. Think of Abraham in the Bible. He was called to leave his home and go to a land he'd never seen. Did he have a bulletproof plan? Did he know exactly how things would turn out? Not at all. But he trusted God and moved forward. That's the essence of faith. It's walking in expectation that God's higher purpose will reveal itself as you obey and trust. If you demand total certainty before you act, you might end up in perpetual hesitation. I speak from personal experience because I've been in positions where I wanted every detail spelled out. I wanted a sign in neon lights. But I realized that sometimes God wants me to take the first step. Then He'll show me the second. If you're feeling that nudge in your spirit right now, don't ignore it. That might be God speaking to your heart, telling you to do something brave, something that will grow you and bless others in ways you can't fully see yet. Let me share another example from my own life. There was a time early in my career when I had the chance to take on roles that didn't align with my value. The money was tempting, the exposure could have been huge, but something in me felt unsettled. I wrestled with God in prayer. Lord, is this my breakthrough, or is this a trap? I didn't want to pass up what looked like an incredible opportunity. Yet I also couldn't shake the feeling that I was being tested. So, I took a risk. I said, no. And I waited. I won't lie to you. Waiting was tough. I questioned if I'd made a huge mistake. But soon, other doors opened, doors that felt more aligned with who I was, roles that allowed me to grow as an artist and as a person of faith. Looking back, I see how that moment shaped my path. It taught me that not every open door is your door. Peaceful confidence means trusting that God will guide you to the right places, even if it means turning down something that seems appealing in the short term. When you walk by faith, you don't just settle for good opportunities. You seek the ones that resonate with your calling and mission. That's how you keep integrity intact, how you protect your spirit, and ultimately how you find genuine fulfillment. I want to remind you that peaceful confidence isn't about never failing. Failure is part of the journey. I've heard it said that FAIL stands for first attempt in learning. If you've stumbled, if you've made mistakes, if you've acted out of character, welcome to the human family. The question is not whether you'll fail, but whether you'll learn from it, grow from it, and let God turn your mess into a message. The Bible is full of people who failed in big ways. Moses had anger issues. David committed grievous sins. Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Yet God still used them mightily when they repented and returned to him. If you feel weighed down by your past failures, or if you think you've blown your chance at living your purpose, take heart. God specializes in redemption story. He specializes in turning the broken into the beautiful. But you have to let him. You have to be willing to say, Lord, I messed up. Help me become the person you designed me to be. That act of surrender opens you up to healing, growth, and a new chapter you never knew was possible. When I look at today's world, I see a lot of cynicism. People are quick to tear each other down, quick to argue, quick to blame. Part of nurturing peaceful confidence is resisting the tide of negativity. It's standing firm in love, even when you're confronted by hate or misunderstanding. That doesn't mean you become a doormat. It just means you choose not to let bitterness rule your heart. You choose to believe that there's still good out there, that unity is still possible, and that every individual is a reflection of a loving Creator. When you live with that perspective, you become a healing agent in your environment. Instead of adding to the chaos, you bring a sense of calm that people can't help but note. It's not just about personal faith anymore. It's about communal restoration. It's about showing the world what it means to live anchored in God's purpose rather than drifting in the winds of division. I want to speak directly to anyone here who feels like their life is stuck on repeat, as though you're living the same day over and over. Maybe you're in a job that doesn't fulfill you, in a relationship that's draining you, or in a routine that leaves no room for growth. Don't confuse routine with destiny. God may have placed you there for a season to teach you something or to shape you, but that doesn't mean you're meant to stay stuck forever. Ask God to rekindle a vision in your heart. Ask Him to show you the new direction He wants to take you in. And remember, even small shifts in your daily approach can open big doors. Maybe it's time to take a course in something you've always been passionate about. Maybe it's time to step forward in faith and start that community project you've been dreaming about. Or maybe it's time to set some boundaries with people who pull you away from your God-given identity. Whatever it is, if you feel that spiritual nudge, don't wait for a more convenient season. Step out now in faith, trusting that God's purpose will guide you. Of course, there may be people around you who don't understand your faith, who mock your convictions, or who try to undermine your belief in a higher calling. Sometimes these are even folks close to us, friends, co-workers, family members. You need to discern when to stand firm and when to shake the dust off your feet. Sometimes genuine dialogue and patient love can bring about transformation in them. Other times, you may have to lovingly distance yourself to maintain your spiritual and emotional well-being. Not everyone will cheer for your growth or your steps of faith. That's okay. You're not responsible for pleasing the entire world. You're responsible for being who God called you to be. When you keep your eyes on his guidance, he'll place the right people in your path. People who will support you, pray for you, and walk alongside you on this journey toward peaceful confidence. I've noticed something about folks who genuinely walk in that kind of confidence. They have a sense of joy that isn't dictated by external circumstance. You can see it in their demeanor. They might be going through a storm, but there's a light in their eyes. They might have just taken a hit, but they speak words of hope and resilience. That's not because they're naive or in denial. It's because they've rooted themselves in a source that can't be diminished by temporary setbacks. That source is the enduring presence of God in their life. They've learned to cultivate a living relationship with him, to talk to him and listen for his guidance, to saturate their minds with Scripture, and to walk in the Spirit's counsel. Over time, that relationship changes you from the inside out. It's not a one-time event, it's a lifelong process. But the more you invest in it, the sturdier your peace becomes. So, if you feel shaky today, don't despair. Keep praying, keep believing, keep surrounding yourself with truth, and watch how God fortifies your spirit day by day. I also want to stress the importance of forgiveness in this journey. Unforgiveness is like carrying a backpack full of stones everywhere you go. It weighs you down and steals your joy, making true peaceful confidence impossible. You might feel justified in harboring resentment. Maybe someone hurt you deeply, or betrayed your trust, or even tarnished your reputation. But forgiveness isn't saying that what they did was okay. It's saying that you refuse to let their actions imprison you any longer. It's saying that God is the ultimate judge, and you release the need for revenge, or the grudges that drain your spirit. When you forgive, you set yourself free. It might not happen overnight, but every time you let go of bitterness, you make space in your heart for peace. And peace feeds that quiet confidence we've been talking about, reminding you that no hurt is bigger than God's healing power. Now let's think about the legacy you want to leave behind. Legacy isn't just about big achievements or accolades. It's about the story your life tells when all the noise fades away. Do you want your legacy to be one of frantic chasing, constant anxiety, and superficial success? Or do you want to be remembered as someone who trusted something bigger, someone who spread hope, someone who moved through this world with a calm assurance that inspired others? Every day you're writing a chapter of that story. Peaceful confidence makes for a powerful testimony, not just for you, but for everyone watching your life unfold. Your kids, your colleagues, your community. They're observing how you handle adversity, how you celebrate blessings, how you treat people who can't repay you. Let them see your faith in action. Let them witness what it looks like when someone genuinely believes God holds the pen that writes each chapter. There's a ripple effect to that kind of faithfulness that you might not fully grasp in this lifetime, but rest assured, it's happening in ways both visible and unseen. If we were to distill everything we've said tonight into one unifying theme, is this: you can walk in a peace that surpasses understanding, and you can stand confident, not because of who you are alone, but because of who God is and the promise He has for you. And this promise isn't exclusive to a select few. It's available to everyone who is willing to open their heart and trust. Whether you're at rock bottom or on top of the world, whether you're young and just beginning or seasoned with years of experience, God's higher purpose is calling to you. He's whispering, "Come closer, lean on me, let me show you how wide and deep my love for you goes." But you've got to respond. You've got to take that step of faith and keep taking it, day in and day out, even when the path is unclear. My challenge to you is to put these principles into practice. Start small. Wake up tomorrow and spend a moment acknowledging God. Say, "Lord, thank you for this day. Guide me in every step." Carry that prayer in your heart, through your commute, through your interactions at work or school, through every text message you send, every conversation you have. Let that mindset shape the way you approach decisions, big or small. And at the end of the day, reflect on where you saw God's hand. Write it down if you can. Journaling is a powerful way to remember His faithfulness. Over time, you'll see patterns of grace emerging from what once seemed like chaos. You'll notice doors you never knew existed open at precisely the right moment. You'll realize you are part of something far greater than you could have orchestrated on your own. And now I want you to imagine, just for a moment, a future where your heart is at ease, even when life gets noisy, where you carry a quiet assurance that no setback can uproot you, where you know your identity is secured in the divine blueprint God designed for you. Close your eyes, if you need to, and picture yourself living that reality, waking up without the weight of crippling fear, interacting with people in a way that exudes calmness and warmth, contributing to your community with a confidence that comes from a place of deep, abiding faith. That image is not a fantasy. It's an invitation. It's the life God intended for you, a life anchored in trust and illuminated by purpose. It doesn't mean you won't face storms, but it does mean the storms won't define you. This journey has twists and turns. Nobody said otherwise. Yet, from where I stand, I can promise you that every stumble, every question, every triumph, and every tear can lead you closer to understanding the depth of God's plan. You are not a cosmic accident. You're a masterpiece in progress. And the more you yield yourself to that truth, the more you realize that peace and confidence are not fleeting emotions, but steadfast companions. In a sense, they become part of your armor, protecting your heart and mind from the arrows of self-doubt and the constant chatter of the world telling you you're not enough. Let's bring this home now. You've heard a lot about faith, about stepping out, about trusting God's higher purpose. You might be thinking, all right, I hear you. But what does this practically look like when I walk out those doors? It looks like being present in each moment, listening before speaking, choosing compassion over judgment, and staying rooted in gratitude. It looks like dropping to your knees in prayer when confusion sets in, or reaching out to a trusted friend or mentor for godly counsel. It looks like reading scripture to refresh your mind with truths that stand the test of time, rather than just absorbing the fickle trends of society. It looks like daring to dream again when the world says you're too old, too young, too broken, or too late. And it looks like extending a helping hand to someone else on their path, trusting that God will multiply your kindness in ways you may never see with your own eyes. The time has come for you to rise and claim that peaceful confidence. Don't wait for someone else to hand it to you because they can't. It's a gift from God that you must willingly unwrap. As you go forward, let your heart be saturated with this understanding. You were made for a purpose, and no one can steal that from you unless you let them. Even when doubt tries to creep in, push back with the truth. I am a child of God, and He is leading me. Even when you face uncertainty, face it with the prayer, Lord, I trust your hand on my life. And when you fail, don't remain in the dust. Pick yourself up, lean on God's forgiveness and grace, and keep going. You'll be amazed at how your perspective shifts, how your relationships deepen, and how your influence expands. Remember, peace is not the absence of chaos, but the presence of God in the midst of it. Confidence is not about never feeling afraid, but about moving forward in faith, knowing you have a heavenly Father who never leaves your side. When you tie those two together, peace and confidence, and anchor them in the reality of God's unwavering love, you step into a power that is gentle yet unbreakable. You'll find yourself walking into rooms radiating a calm assurance that turns heads, not because you're showy, but because you're steady. And the world needs that right now. We need men and women, young and old, who can stand firm in the whirlwind and say, I know who holds my future, and it is well with my soul. So let this be the charge. Go out into your life, your classroom, your workplace, your home, your neighborhood, and be that embodiment of peaceful confidence. Let your faith speak louder than your fears, your hope shine brighter than your doubts, and your love overcome any hatred thrown your way. Because in doing so, you'll not only transform your own life, but you'll also become a catalyst for change in the lives of others. That's the beauty of God's design. He blesses us, so that we might become blessed. He strengthens us so that we might lift others. He gives us peace so that we might bring calm to a troubled world. And he instills in us unwavering confidence so that we might speak life into those who feel hopeless. Take a moment right now and let these words sink into your heart. Don't let them just entertain your mind for a moment. Let them plant seeds in your soul. Let this be a turning point or a reaffirmation of what you always believed. Wherever you stand on your journey, may tonight's message prompt you to draw closer to God, to reinforce your trust in His plan, and to carry yourself with a renewed sense of purpose and assurance. You are not here by accident. This gathering, this moment, this breath, it's all part of something greater, a divine orchestration meant to stir your spirit. When you leave this place, leave knowing that you are loved beyond measure. Leave confident that no obstacle is too big for God's grace. Leave resolved that you will walk in peaceful confidence, because the one who calls you has equipped you, is with you, and will see you through every step. I hope you walk away tonight feeling stirred, feeling encouraged, feeling challenged to keep going no matter what. We are all in this together, journeying toward a destiny that has been crafted just for us. The question is, will you embrace it, or will you let the noise of the world drown out the steady call of faith? My prayer is that you'll choose to embrace it, because when you do, you'll find that life may not get easier, but it does get richer, fuller, and far more meaningful. And you'll discover that in God, you have a never-ending well of reassurance, a fount of purpose that continually whispers, I have called you by name, and you are mine. Thank you for lending me your ears and your heart. Now, let's go forth and live it. Let's go and be the men and women who reflect the peace and confidence that only comes from above. Let's show the world that true strength isn't in boasting, but in believing. Let's demonstrate that humility combined with faith can move mountains, and that a heart anchored in God's love can weather any storm. Tonight, I pray you leave with a renewed spirit, a refreshed mind, and a determination to stand firm in the confidence of your calling. May God bless you, guide you, and fill you with the peace that surpasses all understanding. And remember, He is not just a bystander in your story. He's the author. Let Him write a chapter so full of faith, hope, and love that it becomes the testimony you share for years to come. Go in peace, go in power, and go in the unwavering confidence that the Lord of all creation is walking right beside you. Amen.